with regard to quantum mechanics is that the way that he models telic recursion is based on the ideas of the quantum wave function collapse. Is that he essentially breaks that down into two phases. That you have inner expansion, which is essentially corresponding to when the quantum particle becomes a probability distribution and doesn't really have any definite position or momentum, but it exists in this kind of space of potential. And then requantization, which is when there's this registration event, which then causes it to have a definite position and momentum and to act more like a classical particle. And so the idea with that is that that is literally a process of telic recursion, and it's also an analogy for how it works at the broader scale. So that's a tertiary telic recursion is just literally like one tiny quantum particle and how it and that system and how it evolves over time. But then also, so you can think of the inner expansion as a potentiality growing to encompass the non-terminal domain, this space of potential that has the possibility of becoming any possible end, which is then filtered through the syntax, through the rules of reality in order to generate the next terminal state, which is then, and the way it does that is through that collapse, as there has to be information provided to it in order for it to determine its next state. And this relates to Schopenhauer, from my understanding, is that the will essentially would be the way that the universe the will is essentially the primary and secondary tellers. So that's God and humans, which has this input into the system, which determines how it evolves and parameterizes the structure and dynamics of reality. And then the representation would be just the terminal domain. That's the classical world. That's what we see. And the ultimate basis for this is actually something that is pre-will and pre-representation, is what's called unbound telesis, is literally infinite will, is will without any informational constraint, and that represents the pre-material basis of reality, which is then through recursive cross-definition over time, through telic recursion, then filters itself into a specific universe.